Moving, as you know, is a very stressful time. Just selling your home, packing, finding movers, getting the best price for everything. It's part of the process. Today I have a little bit of a warning about a serious moving scam. Good afternoon, I'm Michelle Sloan, and this is the SloanSellsHomes.com open house on 55 KRC. Recently, 12 people were charged in a moving company scam, and joining me is the U.S. Attorney Ben Glassman. Ben, from the Southern District of Ohio, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
More than 900 people have been victims of this particular scam, and there's a local connection. Can you tell us about it?
Well, the local connection is severalfold. One is that there are local victims here. Unfortunately, there are victims across the country, and that includes here in the tri-state area. And then in addition, this criminal organization, or what we've alleged to be a criminal organization, was using a number of warehouses throughout the country. One of them is in Westchester.
Yeah, that's frighteningly close. And like you said, there were victims here. So can you explain how this scam works?
So the gist of the scam, as we've alleged in the indictment, is that the criminal defendants the conspirators would create moving companies, and then they would apply to the U.S. Department of Transportation to get a proper license for that company. And then they would advertise for that company with a website that had fake claims about how long they'd been in business. They'd create their own reviews, and then when a customer would contact the company, they would send the customer a very low binding estimate for how much it would cost to complete the move. Then once the movers actually got to the customer's home and loaded all of their household goods onto the moving van, then they would raise the price and either demand that the customer would pay it before they deliver it, or sometimes they wouldn't deliver the goods at all. As complaints would inevitably rack up for any particular moving company, the people who were perpetrating the scheme were constantly in the process of reincarnating as different companies, getting new license numbers from the Department of Transportation by lying about who they were and what other companies they've been affiliated with.
Well, and it's interesting because some of the names, they sound so legit, right? First National Moving and Storage, Flagship Van Lines, Independent Van Lines, National Relocation Van Lines. These all sound like reputable companies. Public Moving and Storage, Trident Auto Shipping, and there's a number of different names. How in the world would someone know that they're not legitimate?
Yeah, they did select names that sounded legitimate. They created websites that looked very legitimate with reviews that looked legitimate. I think the most general way that someone would know that the company wasn't reputable was just the old adage that if it seems too good to be true,
right,
it probably is.
You're always looking, I know that my clients do it, everybody does it, they will interview 2 or 3 different moving companies and they will try to get the best price, but the best price is not always the best deal, especially in a situation like this.
Well, that's right, because you can imagine what a terrible situation it is when you've hired a company and literally take all your stuff, because then they really have you at their mercy. If you are having movers give you a binding estimate of how much it's going to cost to move your goods, and by that I mean a binding estimate under Department of Transportation regulations means that once they give you that estimate, that is the price that it's going to cost to complete the move unless the price is renegotiated before stuff gets loaded onto the truck. So if a company gives you a binding estimate without having actually physically inspected what you are supposed to move, that's a red flag.
Okay, that's good to know. And as things are loaded, just knowing from experience, they're writing down the number of boxes that are going in. You're having, everything is detailed, and that's part of their job, is to make sure that and they know what's going on the truck, so that when they get to the destination, we know what's going to come off the truck. So there was an agent actually in my office, and her client fell victim to this scam, which is really scary. So about 3 weeks ago, apparently, They were looking for movers. They got the best price. They said, okay, let's go ahead. This particular company was based out of Hollywood, Florida, and they seemed pretty legitimate, but it was the best price, and they went with the best price. All of their stuff, an entire 2-story house full of stuff, was put on that truck, and it was supposed to be delivered 3 days later in Boston, and 3 weeks later, it's still not there. There is a victim hotline available if you think you were a victim of this particular scam, this moving company scam. You can contact the victim hotline at 1-800-424-9071. Some people are going to be concerned. Okay, how do you know that you're using a reputable company? Certainly there are a lot of really good companies around the area, around the Cincinnati area especially, who have been doing business for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And, you probably want to go with someone you know and trust. And it's not usually a local move. It's not your 5 men in a truck or whatever it is. So let's say you're going to get a quote from 3 or 4 different moving companies. The way that you don't get scammed is to make sure that these companies are legitimate. And how do you do that? How long have they been in business? You have to be careful because the scammers are really good about getting reviews and information on the web to make them seem legitimate. But I do have some tips and information. If you're planning to move across the country, here's some information that you need to know. So, number 1, if it's the best deal, and it's the best deal by, let's say, $3,000 or $4,000, and it's too good to be true, it absolutely is. Be very, very careful about who you're doing business with. Also check the Better Business Bureau. That's another great resource for you. So these scammers are deliberately providing lowball estimates to lure you, and then they're going to hold your goods for hostage, and then they're going to ask for more money. That's illegal. Call the police. If that truck arrives on moving day and it's just a blank truck with no logo, it's just a plain white truck, that's another red flag that you should probably look at, because there's a good chance that that person just rented that truck to take your stuff. Also, when you're calling a phone number, these local scammers, they can get local phone numbers. The phone number may be local. It may be a 513 area code. And they may just call and say, hey, movers, or moving company, rather than an actual name. That's another red flag you want to look at. They may just give you a quote over the phone. A legitimate mover will actually come to your house to give you a quote, because the quote's going to be based on how much they're moving and how much that weighs. You're supposed to also receive a booklet that requires some federal regulations, and it's called Your Rights and Responsibilities When You Move. So you're supposed to get that booklet. If you don't get that booklet, again, you want to make sure that you get some identification for who you're talking to. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, it's not worth it. Just step away and step back and say, you know what, I got to get some more information. Or if they come to your house and they're not in a marked moving van, and the people involved don't want to give you any of their identification, again, it's not worth it. Don't let them put your stuff on that truck. Another way that they will do this is crazy, never sign a bunch of blank forms. So that mover may say, oh, I'll just write this in. Here, can you sign the bottom of each one of these pages for me? Don't do it. Don't do it, because again, that's another way that they can just write anything they want in. And once they have your signature, they'll say, well, you signed it. Be very careful. So that's some of the things that you need to know when you're moving so that you don't get scammed. I'm Michelle Sloan. I'm your local residential realtor with Sibcy, Cline. And this is the SloanSellsHomes.com open house on 55 KRC, the talk station.